Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Anything Goes with Anna Rose. You have me, myself, and I today, which I am excited about. I hope that you're excited about it. I think based off the title, you will be excited for this episode. I know so many of you absolutely love and, to be honest, follow me for these kinds of chats. It is one exceedingly hot on my heart at the moment. And I know that I am known for being a woman who loves to talk about politics, money, and, to be honest, sex, which I love about myself. But I also try to keep a really stable balance in my own life. I find that when I become too obsessive essentially, which I absolutely can become in my own private life over anything political and politics and global politics and geopolitics, etc., which I absolutely do, I have to swing my pendulum very far the other way in my life and stay connected to what matters most, which, first of all, as I kick off this episode, is such a beautiful coachable moment. I am going to go into the 5 things I believe as a human being, especially in Australia, you should be doing for yourself and your money right now. I'm going to go into the 5 hottest tips that just should be the bare minimum in your life regardless. But I also just want to remind you that we don't forget the point of it all, okay? So before I start to talk about pass-in rates at auctions, property, inflation, interest rates, etc., which we're going to go all the way in on, I'm going to give you this is why I have my laptop, friends. I do have my laptop because I want to give the exact numbers, and I'm not about to learn them and spend hours trying to memorize them, and I have to get them right. I really want to get them right for context. So I do have my laptop. We are going to go off. I'm going to read some of the numbers off of my laptop today. So welcome, friends. 2 other things I really wanted to touch on from a podcast perspective before I begin. I do love to talk about politics. I fucking love to talk about money. I love to bring you things that I want to say that you may not otherwise know, which is probably a fair assessment. It's the feedback that I get reflected to me the most when I do share anything sort of political or geopolitical or finances. And something that I really want to do on this podcast is actually more of this, is really have my laptop and bring you essentially commentary on current climate globally, like I'm about to do, which is obviously going to be very Australia specific. Now, to be honest, this is more of a money podcast. I'm literally going to give you 5 tips that 5 tips that you should absolutely be doing in your life right now from a financial perspective. But ultimately at the front end, I am going to talk about sort of numbers and rates and comment on the current financial climate in Australia. This is the shit that makes me hot. Like, I love this stuff. And to be honest, the podcast that I listen to the most, one that I love that I listen to daily, you probably wouldn't interest you, but I love PBD Daily. And it's a group of dudes that literally just go through the headlines of the day and comment on them. And it can get really spicy and they can yell at each other. But that's just one of probably 3 or 4 podcasts that I listen to daily. I listen to up to like 4 or 5 hours sometimes of podcasts just when I'm packing orders or I'm driving or I'm in the gym. So right there, that's like 4 hours easily of my day. Ryan is slowly coming around. He much prefers music, but just for me, it's honestly, I love it. I love to learn. That's my cathartic. Anyway, this is all to say, I'm already side questing here. Apologies. This is all to say, if you love this episode, if you get something from this episode, please DM Anything Goes and let me know. I'd say Anna, but I might miss it because I would love to do more of this. I would actually love to sit, and maybe I start doing a bi-weekly, so 2 episodes a week where I have a guest and then I have a solo where I can just really comment on sort of the highlights or the lowlights essentially of the week from a news headline perspective and give my take on it. I'm also about to have the besties come in, so I feel like there's something around that as well. But yeah, let me know. Podcasting takes a lot of time. As you've listened to this or watched this, you cannot imagine how much actual effort and time it really does take up. So being told, yes, this is what I want, and I love it. I absolutely love podcasting. I'm so humbled by it every single week when thousands of you listen, and I chart in Australia actually around the globe every single week as a top podcast in my categories. Blows my fucking mind. So I am infinitely grateful, but I love your feedback. So please give it to me. If you love this episode, let me know. And you let me know as well by the reviews. You let me know by the shares that happen on the clips that I put on the Anything Goes Instagram. Come and follow that page, share the reels, DM me, let me know what you're loving, what you aren't loving, what you want more of, etc. So that's the first thing I want to say before I dive in. The second thing that I want to say, there's a little bit of podcast admin on this episode because I feel like I have not done a solo in so long, is you cannot imagine how much your reviews and your shares do go with the podcast. Because what that does is, I have a ridiculous network. I have a phenomenal network that's only getting more and more and more incredible, which I'm grateful for. But your value, I always say your net worth is your network. I work exceedingly hard on expanding mine. But ultimately, when I'm reaching out to people that I don't know, if I do want someone on the podcast that I don't know, which is rare, I typically know most of the people I'm bringing on. But as I start to grow and the podcast starts to grow more and more, especially for you as the listener, I want to get and can get bigger guests because of the downloads that I get weekly, because of the reviews that I have. I have over 200 reviews, which is wild, because your listens pop me in the top charting, top 100, but it's easily top 50, usually top 25 podcasts of the week. So of the day, and the week for that category. So your listens and your reviews and your shares, you cannot imagine how much that helps the podcast. And then when I go and get the names that you really want, like the big names, it massively helps because they will take a look at it and they're like, oh, the statistics are incredible. Of course I'm going to go on that podcast. So pause me if you must, right? I'm solo today. Pause me, pause ahoy. Or if you're in the gym or you're doing the dishes or you're on a walk or you're on a drive or in the shower, wherever you're listening to me, hi, hello. And it would honestly mean, it's not even that it would mean the world to me, it does, but it means so much for you as a listener if you can go and put a review up or share a reel on Instagram or go follow the Instagram, because it signals to upcoming guests that I want to reach out to that it's worth coming on this podcast, which helps you because then they get to get interviewed by me and you know the kind of interviewer I am, spicy and unfiltered. So that's where I'm at. How many minutes have I already spoken and we haven't even begun? Okay, about 10. Beautiful. Let's dive in though. Today I am going through the 5 things that I believe, the 5 moves essentially, your 5 financial moves. That is the name of the podcast. But before I get into that, I really just wanted to talk about the current climate of Australia. We all know pretty much it's fucked. End point, right? Globally, it's pretty fucked at the moment. I have been talking about this particular time, this end of cycle, since I got Coco on the podcast, and that's why I got her on the podcast. I knew she's a savant and obsessive about talking about it. Late last year, so pretty much almost a year ago, right? So I've been talking about this moment in time, and we are not even there yet, friends. Let me tell you, this is like I always think inappropriate things. I'm like, this is the cock teasing, like this is the foreplay before the bang, essentially. We are not, and that's like a positive connotation. So it's a shit connotation. We are literally in the embers right before the fucking fire. So if you're hurting right now, firstly, I really feel for you. And I've been talking about this for a year, right? So I'm going to give you the 5 financial moves you absolutely need to be doing for you and your finances, yes. But we're here, right? The crash we were talking about is beginning. And I want to give you some statistics from a property perspective because Australia is so obsessed with property, and that is where 90% of Australians' wealth is held. So we're going to talk about that for a quick perspective. But I also want to go into the consumer price index, so the CPI, where inflation's at, and basically just the average interest rate for Australia. Now, if you have a mortgage, you would absolutely know the average interest rate right now. But I do want to talk about, obviously, the national clearance rate of auctions, which is the temperature of the property market in Australia at any time. And then we're going to go into the money moves. So as of today, I actually don't know the date. It's the 2nd of July. This is why the laptop's so handy. 2nd of July, 3:30 in the afternoon, I have pulled this data, or about an hour ago, but this is where it's at as of the 2nd of July. It'll be really interesting to come back to this in like 6 months and be like, oh, that was conservative, which it will be. And that's why we're having this conversation today. So Australia's Consumer Price Index, Australia's CPI as of today's date is at 4%, right? Which is, it's not bad, it's not good, it's kind of indifferent, but it's certainly far above the Reserve Bank of Australia's targeted 2 to 3% that it thought we would be at. Now, Labor's modelling is embarrassing and a joke, and I have said this in all of my Instagram reels when I comment politically and why I spoke up again when the Strait of Hormuz was closed. So again, the RBA's target is laughable, but we are actually statistically at 4%, the Consumer Price Index. Now, where are we at with inflation? So inflation is also at 4%. So inflation's at 4%, which it's not at 4%. It's not at 4%, right? It is absolutely not at 4%. That is the RBA's take on inflation. We all know that it's way higher than that, right? We don't know the true number. We can speculate, but it is definitely not at 4%. But that's what they're telling us. So we appreciate their lies. The biggest thing I wanted to focus on, though, is obviously the Reserve Bank of Australia hiking the interest rates, which it has to do because it's trying to pull the lever to reduce inflation, which is what, if you don't know now, you know, but we know that. So the RBA has 3 consecutive times raised the interest rates. Now, it's trying to raise the interest rates to cool down inflation, which is not really occurring. It did leave the rates on hold in June, which is no real reprieve, but we will take it. You can all take it. But basically, February, March and May, they hiked the interest rates, as you know, at 25 basis points. So 0.25%, they raised it 3 times in a row. That leaves us right now at 4.35%. Now, that's the RBA's interest rate. I did the average interest rate for Australia just to see what you're all paying if you have a mortgage. Average, so this is the average interest rate as of the 2nd of July for a fixed is 6%. And for variable, it sits on average around 6.6%. Now, they are saying, however, that they are going to, Westpac is currently predicting, more than Westpac, but predominantly Westpac has come out and said, expect at least a minimum 2 more hikes in August and September. So bang, bang. They're not going to leave it on hold again because inflation is going up. So August and September, you can expect another 0.25 hike, right? And without fail, your banks overnight will pass that on. Now, if you followed me for a little while, you'll know that back in whenever it was, when I was back doing my reels politically, commentating, I called this moment. I did a reel and I said, the Strait of Hormuz is closed, the oil prices are going up, that is increasing inflation, and when inflation increases, the RBA has to, this is just economics 101, that they have to increase the interest rate. And if you go back, it's not about being like I told you so, but I literally said stress test your mortgage. Most of you are at 4%. You were all in my DMs going, oh my God, Anna, I said stress test your mortgage at 6, 7 to 8% easily, minimum. And if you can afford it, beautiful. If not, you need to be having a serious conversation and looking at, your options essentially. We're there, right? I did that reel back in March, I think it was, and we're now here, right? Which sucks for many of you. I know that they're saying that over 50, 60% of Australians are currently in mortgage crisis. I think it's higher, to be honest. I should have got that number, but are in mortgage crisis. And most Australians, the statistic is right now, most Australians are going without a meal, adult Australians, to ensure at least the kids are fed. That is so beyond okay as a nation. It's beyond me. But here we sit. So expecting 2 more raises in August and September. So you really need to be stress testing your mortgage because your bank is going to pass that on. But here's where it gets interesting from a property perspective. So I've been sending Lloyd, my good friend, He's not anti-property. He's just pro-wealth. So he's very pro shares, but I've been sending him, was like, do I share this on the podcast? He goes, oh, thank you so much for this. I'm going to get my team to take it and I'll talk about it on his podcast. So he's about to talk about what I've been sending him, but it's not looking good for Australia for property. So they're in parts of Melbourne, property prices have dropped pre-COVID. So everyone that was like, yeah, the COVID boom and rah, 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 well, property's it's corrected back to what it was before COVID. But let's look at the statistics of property from the national clearance rate of auctions, right? Again, this is how they get a pulse of where property is at. Right now, as of it was June 27th is the last number I could get. The national clearance rate was 51.5%, okay? This time last year, it was 68.7%. So that means that roughly half of every property going to auction are selling and the other half are not. So 50% or 51.5%, call it 50%, right? Properties are getting passed in, so are not selling. City though, let's look at it contextually. I know Perth has some. Let me say though, I was going to say I know Perth is reporting better numbers, but interestingly, one of my gorgeous girlfriends, one of my best friends is a property agent, buyer's agent. Anyway, she's huge in real estate over there. And I was talking to her about all this when she was just here for our wedding. And I said, oh, but it's good. Perth is fine. And she laughed and she said, are you fucking kidding? She goes, babe, no, it's not. She said, no one's coming to auctions. No one is coming to Home Open. She's like, we are hurting like the rest of Australia, which was really interesting because I said, oh, isn't that funny because the media are not reporting that? And she said, yeah, of course they're not. So Sydney, let's look at Sydney and Melbourne though because they are obviously the worst. So Sydney, but they're also meant to be like these booming, thriving cities. So Sydney is at 54.3%, down from 58% from the previous year. Sydney is at 54.3%. This is why I have my laptop. The week before that, it was 58%. So it's a significant drop, even though it's quote unquote only 4%. That is a significant drop in a week. But that's down from 76% this time last year. Okay, that's Sydney. Melbourne is at 49%. And 70%. It was at 70% this time last year. Now, what does this signal? So obviously a buyer's market, fundamentally, first and foremost. But the issue with it being a buyer's market is we've lived through many buyer's markets before, right? I've certainly lived through buyer's markets and still never been interested. But it's a very, very, very different economic time. It's not the GFC yet. It's not COVID with, enormous government handout. We are in this global geopolitical shitstorm of an economic downturn across the world. But our Australian government is doing an outstanding job of trying to absolutely decimate the middle class and basically take away all of the levers and all of the options for wealth building, legacy wealth building in Australia. So the problem with it being a buyer's market, right? So it's like, great, it's a buyer's market, is interest rates are still going up because inflation is so high. But because we all are aware now, if you follow Husey, you're definitely aware, but of the federal budget that was just handed down, that much of was passed in Parliament. Everyone was like, yeah, don't stress until it's passed in Parliament, which I always agree with. But they did the backdoor deal with Greens. And what they had proposed became worse, specifically for property, because the Greens said, we will only support this bill, like all these pieces of legislation, if you also disallow purchasing in superannuation funds, in superannuation funds, which is so wild. So we're not in a normal economic cycle. If you're a buyer with finance ready, phenomenal, great, get out there, buy. Stress test your income capacity or your loan serviceability with 7-8% interest rates across however many properties you have. If you still can afford it, fantastic. But this is the point. This is where it gets interesting because the government has changed everything with the capital gains and negative gearing. Most people are now not going to run out, right? Unless they're doing new builds, but there's no trades available and construction costs are up 30 to 40% across Australia. So as you can see and as you can hear, we are just in this very interesting, difficult, tumultuous time that I don't see an end for yet. I don't think anyone can predict when we're going to hit the absolute fucking wall of this downturn. But I also don't think that anyone can predict when we're going to come out of it either. And we'll only be able to do that, I think, when we've hit rock bottom, which we're not even close to yet. All right, so where does that leave us all though? That sounds all very death and doom and gloom, which is not ideal, and it's certainly not who or what I always want to be. But I think the best thing that I've always known in my whole life, and a lot of my healing journey has always been, when I know it, own it and claim it, right? Every single time. So if you've been burying your head in the sand on you are stressed beyond your means, you have a mortgage, say, and you were listening to me a year ago, but you did nothing about it. You saw my reel on Instagram saying stress test your mortgage with loan serviceability at 6%. We're there now, and you didn't. If you have a car loan, for example, which is just such bad debt, if you have credit card debt, like if you are in that position where you're stressed, let's talk about it. That's the person that I want to speak to right now. So we're going to talk about the 5 money moves, and I've also written them down so I don't side quest. It's so funny. I was like, yeah, baby. Ryan's just out working in the dream house, and I was like, it'll be like a 20-minute episode, and I think I'm already at half an hour. So I've written them down so I don't create more, etc., because I've really tried to think of the 5 things that are possible, that are reachable, that are most important and most necessary for right now. All right, so number 1, and I deeply coach this in self-love school, but it's a little bit a different reasoning with this one, but it is know your numbers. Know your numbers. I just said it, but such a huge part of radical responsibility is knowing, owning, and claiming essentially like, yeah, I've fucked up. You know, like I have done some silly things and I've made some silly choices. For example, I use it as an example because I just think it's the craziest thing. When people get car loans, I just don't understand why people, and this can activate you, let it, please, by all means. If you can't afford your car, I just don't know why people drive. Like, buy the car that is not stretching you is what I'm trying to say, right? I paid cash for my Porsche. I will never, any car that I ever want, I will buy cash for. And it wasn't brand new. Look, maybe when I'm earning like $1 million a month, I'll buy a brand new car. But I just think it's, for me, I'm not saying you, but for me, I think it's fucking stupid. I think it is an enormous waste of money because I just love money and I love building wealth, and it is a depreciating asset. It's a depreciating liability, actually. So the second you drive a car out of any car yard, it drops in value. So for me, I'm like, I just wouldn't buy a new one. So this is all to say, for example, if you know your numbers, okay, in the sense that, all right, you've got a car loan, you've got credit card debt, you might have afterpay debt, and then we're going to look at your income. So you're going to write your income down, know your numbers. What is that number? You're then going to go through your liabilities. So you're going to look at your credit card debt. You're going to write that down. You are going to look at your car loan. You are going to look at your afterpay account. You are going to look at your, I don't know what else, mortgage, whatever you've got, you are going to write it on a piece of paper so you know your exact financial situation. I have a call with my accountant every single month, and I sit on a fucking call and I have to hear, know, and look at my numbers. It is the single most life-changing, not experience, task that I began with my accountant H. How long have I been with him? 3 years, 4 years. That I started to do in business, because I can't fuck up, essentially, because every month I'm held accountable to money in the bank, liabilities, expenses, etc., tax liabilities, which is what I hate the most, etc. So know your numbers. Most women, I remember when I did a lot of coaching in Isogenics, and a lot of women would come to me to build a network marketing business, which I absolutely loved and thrived in. And the stories that I would hear where women I'd say, well, what's the number? What did you want to earn? And and what do you want to pay off? And they're like, credit card. Cool. What's the number on, like, what's the debt? What's the amount? And they'd be like, Anna, I don't even know. I just know it's a lot. I can't look at it because it makes me feel sick. Or I stuff I stuff the credit card bill in my diary because it's giving me anxiety. My love, a wealthy woman knows her numbers, right? So no matter how stressful this exercise could be, the first one, no matter how anxiety inducing, no matter how much it might keep you up at night, right? It is the most important thing that you can do before we do the next 4 things. So know your numbers, all right? Number 1. Number 2, we're going to we do not try, we do or we do not. We are going to cut your most expensive debt down first. This is what I definitely coach in Self-Love School, which is so funny because people go, I never expected to be doing budgeting. I do budgeting in Earn Like You Love Yourself. And I break down the whole ideology of saving versus paying off debt versus investing. And the number one thing that I always come back to first and I show them all the numbers, is you have to pay off your debt first. So let's talk about it. Cutting your most expensive debt first. As I just said, you're going to know your numbers. So you're already pretty much going to know this, but you're also, please, let me go back and reiterate with knowing your numbers. Write down any income coming in as well. Okay. So you're going to have that number. What I want to get you to, you're going to have that number, all of the money coming in. So income, child support, Centrelink money, your pay, your partner's pay, whatever income comes into the house, you're going to put in a week, right? You're going to put all that down. Then you're going to put down all of the liabilities. So that's kind of your income. Then you're going to write down all the liabilities and the expenses. So credit card debt, car loan, not groceries and stuff because that's just miscellaneous, obviously, but things that you have to pay or you will default, right? They're your absolute expenses. Because I know if you are tight for a week, you would, your groceries 1 week could be fruit and vegetables and some organic meat, and the next, if you're tight on cash, you're going to be eating 2-minute noodles, right? So we don't put that down. We put the non-negotiables down. So that's number 1. So we look at your incoming versus your outgoing and we find the discrepancy there. The second thing we do is we cut your most expensive debt first. It's called like avalanche payoff. So what you're going to do is you're going to list all of the debt that you have from your most expensive to your least expensive. Pay now, afterpay, as I said, car loan, mortgage is a mortgage. You're not going to pay that off. So that's fine. Mortgage is the debt over there, but we're talking about like bad debt, toxic debt, all the things I keep saying, okay? You're going to go rank it by the interest rate. So then you're going to go into all of your debt and look at the highest interest rate. So your afterpay, I don't know, I don't have afterpay, but your afterpay could be, I don't know how high interest, but say, I feel like I'd be conservative around 15%. I'm not sure. Credit card, I know for a fact most credit cards carry like a 20% interest rate. So you're going to rank all of your debts. Again, park the mortgage aside because that's your house liability, but park your mortgage aside, look at your bad debts is what it's called essentially. It's not ranking the debt from the highest amount you owe to the lowest. You're going to write all the debts down. Then you're going to look into it and find the ones that are charging you the highest interest rate. You're then going to stack those bad debts from the highest interest rate to the lowest, and you are going to focus as much of the pennies that you can spare towards paying that debt off first. Now, this is where I like riff about a car. If you have a car loan and because you're driving you fucked up, right? And you bought a brand new, it's not even like Hyundai, I don't know, Elantra, I don't know, whatever. Okay. Or a Kia. I loved my Kia. Again, paid cash for that car though. So that's the car loan. If you are currently paying, you might have paid 15K off or whatever else, and it's you've got 40K owing or whatever, and that interest, you'll have high interest rate on that. Consider getting rid of the car and getting something within your means. Yes, it may take a little bit of an ego hit when you pull up to the kids' soccer or netball or school pick up and drop off, but at least you're not fucking killing yourself to keep up with the Joneses of who you probably don't even like, right? So this is where we just put on our big girl panties and start to know our numbers, be fucking off as much debt in our life as humanly possible so we can get to the third step, which is the cash buffer and the saving and then the investing. However, let's stay on number 2. So you're going to rank that debt and you are going to start to pay off as much of the the debt with the highest interest rate first. You're going to pummel that as fast and as much as you can. Then you're going to go to the next one and then the next one and then the next one before, and hopefully you will get rid of your debt. Now, the car loan, for example, is a really good one because I have spoken to so many women and they're like, yep, you're right. They have sold the car. They've been able to pay off that car. They buy a car within their means, $5,000, $10,000, and potentially even have some left over to pay off a credit card or something. This is where we just start to cut the fat from our life. So that's number 2, cut your most expensive debt first. The third thing is build a cash buffer. Now, some coaches, again, eat the fish, leave the bones. You do not need to take this advice, but because I know there's just so many coaches saying so many different things. There are a lot of coaches that will say build that buffer first. I don't, right? Because you're fucked either way. Even if you have a cash buffer, but your debt is increasing because your interest rate is like you're getting charged late fees, or your interest rate is hitting your credit card every month at 20% and you have a couple of grand owing. What's the point of cash sitting in a bank? And the cash rate right now is fucking actually really good, 4.5 to 5%. But what's the point in having that cash in the bank? Because you're still struggling with this pyramid essentially of debt. Okay, so I do say cut your most expensive debts first. Focus on all your spare cash on that. And then when you've done that, yes, fuck yes, then you build your 3-month buffer. Again, it could be a 1-month buffer. It could be 6 months. I just say 3 because that ultimately is going to give you enough breath that this is like if you lost your job and it took you 3 months to get a job back, you could still afford your mortgage or your rent, putting petrol in the car that you can afford, and you've, by this stage, paid off most of your debt, right? Your bad debt, your Afterpay, your credit card, your car loan, etc. Okay, so you're going to build a 3-month cash buffer. That is critical in this time period. 1 billion %. This is where Coco and I kept saying stack cash, stack cash, stack cash. That's a buffer. That's what we're talking about. Cash in the bank, right? And right now, as I said, the bank's giving a pretty good high yield interest rate because interest rates are high. So build that cash buffer. Number 4, you can only do realistically if, well, actually no, because I'm gonna change this. So diversify beyond one income stream. Usually I relate this to investing, right? So have more than one investment. So if you've got a mortgage, awesome, look at shares as well. If you've got crypto, look at a business, for example. Business to me is my number 1 income diversification. But what I want to talk about with diversification beyond one income stream, and this could honestly be third, and then the cash buffer is how you'll do this. But ultimately, during an economic period like the one we are in, if you have one source of income, it's going to be really hard. I'm not going to be like doom and gloom, like you probably won't survive, but it's going to be really hard. I want to give a really beautiful example. My cleaner, my amazing cleaner, who is paid incredibly well, right? As she so deserves. She was saying to me, so Ryan and I have a lot of recyclables and we just put it in the bin like normal people, right? But she was so incredible today. She said to me, if I brought you a bag, could you put all your recyclables in the bag and I can take it because we cash the cans and stuff in? And I was like, oh my God, of course, I would love to do that for you. Please bring a bag. We will absolutely fill it every week and you can take it. And I actually said to her, I said, I just so honor you. I think that's so clever. I think it's brilliant. I think it's such a good way to like side hustle. And she said, yeah, we can sometimes earn up to $300 additional a month just from that. She's like, I ask people like yourself. I ask all my clients who are just chucking them out. Obviously us ourselves. She's got a friend who does Airbnb. She has that bag at the Airbnb. And she said, yeah, sometimes it can be, 1 month it can be $350, other months it can be $100. But she's like, that really helps our family. And I was like, you're incredible. So this is what I'm talking about when I say diverse your income stream. I'm not saying go and start a business. I would, if you can, I would look at network marketing. I would look at starting. I want to give another example. I keep saying cleaning or content girly, right? For example, there's two people that I can give an example of. A girl that I'm about to book for content, she is booked, like flat out booked all the time. It was hard to get her. I had to book her like a month. Like I get her like basically a month in advance. And all she does is film content for business owners. That's all we need. Like that is the number one thing all of us need right now for our marketing, for our ads, for our socials. And I keep saying to people, if you could go and just learn some skills and, put an Instagram account up that looks amazing, that's like, hey, I'm starting to, for X amount an hour to come and shoot you at your workplace or shoot you at your house or shoot you wherever, in a car park, get you some content for your business. This is the stuff that I would be doing. I would be cleaning. I've got another girlfriend, she got fired. She's just a queen. And she started cleaning. I keep saying, I'm like, I would start cleaning, and then I would get busy, and then I would start a little cleaning company. It is exactly what she has done. She is absolutely killing it. She started as a cleaner. She got really busy with clients in literally a couple of months. So then she started to recruit cleaners underneath her. And now she basically just runs her little but amazing cleaning company. And she's not on the tools. She's literally taking the clients and subcontracting the cleaners out. You could do dog walking, you could do pet sitting, you could do car washing, you could do lawn mowing if you are a gentleman listening to this, a king. There are so many ways that you could diversify your income. You could go and stack shelves at Woolworths overnight. You could do Uber Eats, you could do Ubering, you could get home from, I know it sucks and maybe you'll become tired, but this is how I have grown empires. I don't take no for an answer. I never give up, and I do what I can with what I have all of the time. So in this economic period where you should not be relying on one income stream, your number 4 move is diversify beyond one income stream. This is what I'm talking about. You don't have to be like, oh, okay, well then I need to save money to invest in shares. Honey, if you've got a mortgage, an afterpay account, and a car loan, no, you need to go find a way to earn more money in simple ways. Dog sitting, dog walking, cleaning, Uber Eats, Uber, content girly, starting an Instagram or just saying to some people in your life, hey, like I'm starting to do content, love to shoot you, let me know X amount an hour. You will start to, and you can just do cash, even if it's just cash only. Do whatever you need to do, but you need to be diverse in your income stream. All right. Number 5 is get educated and stay educated. We are in tumultuous times. We are in an economic climate that we have never seen in Australia. Mark my words. Your job is to not bury your head in the sand. Your job is to stay listening to podcasts like this, is to seek out people and podcasts and commentators and whatever, websites that tell the truth, not necessarily news outlets, where you can stay educated, get educated and stay educated. Absolutely unapologetically a shameless plug. I've done a masterclass and I have done a wealth and freedom summit. So I did the money and investing masterclass. Then I did the wealth and freedom summit. They were both $99 live. The masterclass is still $99. The summit is $199, but that is a 5-hour summit where the messages that I am getting daily from the people that have done that, and not just done it, but took action, it is soul-shatteringly life-changing. Like people are moving country, people have sold their houses, people are investing in shares and already earning dividends. It's remarkable. There was no one told you what to do. I got the best of the best on the summit, and they literally educated you in their asset class, what they do, how they've made their wealth, etc. That no one sold anything. It was never about selling. There were no courses sold, no upsells. It was pure education around this exact topic. So move number 5 is get educated and stay educated. And a really fucking great place to start is the masterclass and the summit. And then beyond that, keep pull at the threads. You'll probably love some of the speakers that I had. Maybe if you love them, go follow them. Then see who they're following. Go find commentators and podcasts that you love. But yeah, I will actually post the masterclass and the summit in the show notes so you can purchase that. And that's it. I'm going to try and wrap it right here, right now. Number 1, know your numbers. Number 2, cut your most expensive debt first. Number 3, build your 3-month buffer. Number 4, diversify beyond one income stream. And number 5, get educated and stay educated. I am going to leave it there. As I said, if you love what you have heard, share it, review, let me know in the DMs, tag me when you share it because it just lets me know what you're loving. If you want to do the summit or the masterclass, it will be in the show notes. So go back to where you're listening, either on Spotify, YouTube, or Apple Podcasts, and a link to it will be in the show notes. You'll be able to find where the podcast episode description is. And that's me, my love. I'm going to wrap it up. I thought this would be 20 minutes. What a joke. She loves a yap. But until next time, my love, as always, stay wild.